What up? My name's Steve. I hit the road in November 2021. I hit the road to pursue my dream of becoming a full-time artist. Come on in. Basically, when I knew I was gonna be living in a bus and designing like the place I would live after getting out of my parents' house, I knew I would be pursuing art full time. So I needed a workspace, and I really needed a workspace and a living space. So the bed, I knew I wanted two couches facing each other to fit more people in, because I wanted it to be a nice place to like hang out with my friends and get people together. So I knew I didn't like builds where they had a fixed bed, because it seemed like it just took up too much space. So I took a full-size mattress, foam mattress, and just cut it into 4 pieces to make each couch. Yeah, so this is where I keep the bulk of all my like clothes, and this is the bed when I take all that out to make the bed, sheets and towel or pillows, towels, pants. This is most of the clothes, and it's honestly a bit inconvenient if you're gonna do this, because you got to take the cushions off every time you want to get at something. When I was a kid, I always wanted a hammock in my room, and my parents were like, no, you're gonna tear the walls down. I'm like, no, I'll put it in a stud. They're like, no, it's not gonna work. I'm like, it would work. They're like, nah. So when I got a bus, I'm like, I'm definitely putting a hammock in there. And so I got 2 eye bolts in the ribs of the bus, so it's the strongest part, and then I welded it around even after screwing it, so they definitely won't come out. And I welded the eye bolt shut, so it definitely won't undo on me. And I got rock climbing carabiners so they can hold as much weight, like 500 pounds. And it's the perfect place to hang. It doesn't matter if you're level when you park, if you have a hammock. This cutting board area also doubles as a nice place to put a laptop to watch some movies in a hammock. And the couch ends up at the perfect height for a table to put some food on, put a plate on, drink. No problem. It's the perfect place to hang out. All right, it's the kitchen. We got a 2-burner stovetop, sink. The thing about living in a small space like this, you got 1 sink, your kitchen sink and your bathroom sink. So I got a little mirror up here. In these cabinets, I keep some of the more bathroom things in the kitchen. So it's one of those things you got to deal with. I wish it was a little closer to the edge for like washing my face. It's a little hard to get in there. I wasn't thinking about that when I built it. Yeah, all these handles I made out of chain. I welded them at work. I just cut a piece of chain and wrapped it around a flapper disc to get the nice curve. And so I decided to do that for all my handles. I got a little extra counter space and cutting board. The fridge is a 12-volt solar fridge, so I don't have to run the inverter to run the fridge. It's 7.4 cubic feet, so it's a pretty big fridge. So the fridge came with glass shelves, and I figured they'd probably break on the road, so I should make some wood ones while I had the tools to do so. So I basically just traced the glass shelf on a piece of wood, and then I had to router out the thickness to get it to slide in the slots, and it worked pretty good. But these are definitely starting to break now, keeping weight in them and hitting all the bumps. I already lost the top one, so I'm gonna have to make something new if I want shelves on the door. Right after high school, I started doing some painting, and it was, like here and there. I took 1 art class maybe a few years after that at community college, and then it was probably, I felt like I grew a lot with that class, but then I didn't really do much in the next year to like keep practicing and working on my skills. And then I took another class at the community college, and I noticed that my skills weren't how they were. They weren't as good as when I left the last class because I hadn't been practicing. So that's when it kind of, the realization hit me that like, if I want to be good, this is something I have to be consistent at and do it as much as possible. When I got the bus, it became more of a reality that I was going to quit my day job and pursue art full time. So that's when I really started to take it more seriously and really work on my skills, because I knew that I would have to rely on those skills to make money. So that's when I really started taking it more seriously. I knew when I was designing the space that one of the biggest barriers to creating art is having like to get all this stuff out every time you want to create. So I wanted to make it as easy to access everything as possible. So I got a pallet right here for all my paints. My brushes are just on the shelf. I got a few different easels. All my paints are up here so I can get at them easily. Pallet is actually an old window from I took out of the bus, because it makes it easier to clean up and just scrape it off. The second thing for art is music, so I had to put all my records in here and have my record player, because that's the key to setting the vibe. So before I hit the road, my full-time job was welding. I worked at a company that made custom work trucks. So after high school, I went to welding school, and then I was a welder for like 6 years. So when I started the process for the build, I knew I would need a welder to make stuff like the roof deck and different things. It would be really useful to use my skills. So I bought a welder and a generator to run that stuff. And now this is basically like a little garage. I got all my equipment. I can basically weld anything on the road, and I've already helped people on the road. The first event I was at, a couple had a trailer with a broken leaf spring, and I got to weld that back together. My friends had their gray water tanks were held up very precariously with some, like one screw and a piece of metal, scrap metal. So I helped them and made a bracket for them. The last event we were at, a guy with a camper, truck camper, the eye bolt that he used to strap down the camper to the truck busted on him, so I made him a new one. Yeah, so I didn't think I would break into that so soon on the road, but it was about a month when I got a chance to use it, and it's been real helpful. It's great to help people in the community. In the beginning, my family was a little bit like, I don't know, the main barrier was when I had the idea, I knew I wanted to like convert a vehicle and live on the road. I didn't know where I was gonna do it. So the main barrier was asking my parents if I could do it in their driveway. And for some reason they let me. I think probably because I kept telling them, I was like, it's only gonna take 6 months. And then when 6 months came around, I was nowhere near being done. It was like, okay, another 6 months. And then that was nowhere near being done. And okay, another 6 months, okay, another 6 months. And it just kind of stacks, it gets away from you. You don't realize when you're working full time that it's like a 1 month on the calendar is maybe a week into the bus, a week into the conversion. So it's gonna take a lot longer than you think it's gonna take if you're working full time. So yeah, in the beginning I think they were a bit more like what? Like, okay, I understand like what you're doing. But then as they started to like tell their friends more, and people were like, oh yeah, I've seen people do that on the internet, they became more like, oh, this is like a thing, there's lots of people doing this, he's not just crazy. Like they became more like, oh, this is cool, and I could tell like they were pretty proud at the end, so it was nice. All right, this is the bathroom. We're up this high because this is where the wheel well is. So I had to build this out over the wheel well to get the toilet. Actually, I could have fit the toilet in front of the wheel well, but then the shower area would have been smaller. So I figured I'd build it up and have it on top to make the shower as big as possible in this small space. So there's one of those gray shower liners you cover the floor with before you do all your tiling. Silicone between all the roofing and in the ceiling, so silicone all your holes. These are roofing screws, have a rubber washer on the back, so it has a waterproof seal when it's all the way in. I got cabinets back here that were a bit of an afterthought, so they're built into the wall, and yeah, to use up that 2x4 space back there, and it works out pretty nice to have these two cabinets here. The shower rod was one of the last things I did. I used to have like some pipe in there, but I couldn't attach it to the curb on the wall. So I figured I could probably make one out of chain. Yeah, but I needed to make it around the corner, so I have a little bracket here and I can just lift it up to get the shower curtain to go all the way around. Before, when I couldn't attach it there, I had to have it attached to the wall here, and you couldn't, the shower curtain had to be like right here, so it was in the way when you're sitting on the toilet. So I wanted it back there, and this solution worked perfectly. You don't realize how much of a full-time job it is to live on the road, between like finding a place to park, where you're gonna go, getting groceries and food, and just never, when you're in cities, you really don't have like a secure place to be. You can never really settle down while you're in a city, but you gotta go to cities to do wash and get groceries and take care of stuff, have packages and stuff. You think you're gonna like hit the road and you're gonna have this freedom and you're gonna have all this time to do stuff you wanna do, but you end up spending a lot of your time like traveling, and you never really have your time until you find a place to park that you can stay for a while. And so it's hard in the beginning to find that balance of like traveling and parking and how long to stay in a place, how, and like where do you wanna go, how long do you wanna do. I think it's really good to have a clear goal of like, why are you living on the road? What are you pursuing? Because that'll help like give you more of a schedule on what you want to do and when you need to do it and where you're going. Thanks for watching my tour. If you want to see more, head to my Instagram, Continuous Vibe, or Human Type Inc. to check out the clothes. Thank you.